For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How about yourself?
Sorry, I'm great. I just I had the live stream on the other screen, so I got a little bit confused.
You're good. You're good. I actually have to message somebody because they showed up an hour early. Hold on a minute.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You're good. You're good. All right. So how are things going? It's been a year and a half.
I know. It's been a year and a half and a pandemic.
Yeah. The pandemic.
Yeah. How are you doing? It's going 5 hours strong. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm good. Luckily I've kind of paced it out to the point that after every interview I take like 90 seconds and get up, just
Solid.
stand up, or go to the bathroom, whatever I got to do. But after this, I've got about a 30-minute break, which is amazing. I'm scared to see what my voice sounds like in 5 more hours versus like Monday morning. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, maybe get some cue cards as well, just for in case.
Oh yeah, because luckily at my job we don't have I don't talk a lot because it's just I sit there and I do my job, but it is what it is. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to make it on, and you kind of freaked me out for a minute because when you messaged me at 9:00, I'm like, wait a minute, what am I missing? So
I know. I think it was just one of those. So I tend to put things on my calendar way in advance. So I saw this note in my calendar that just said fundraisers at this time, and I didn't check further just because sometimes my email doesn't get checked as often as it should. Just given the fact that there's no performances or anything happening at the moment, kind of trying to tell people what I'm up to just kind of feels a bit not as exciting. I don't know. I don't know if you felt that during the pandemic as well. Just be like, because there's nothing, we can't go to anything really without something happening.
Yeah, it was interesting. Last year, I felt like it just really drug on. Like last year took forever. Mm-hmm. Which in retrospect, maybe it didn't, but this year it was one of those things like it started off, felt like it was going to be a normal year, and my mom got sick, and then the year just got away from me. And I woke up a couple weeks ago and I was like, wait, when did it become November?
Right. For real.
It's one of those things. And I'm sitting there and I see the ad, like an ad run for Thanksgiving or Black Friday. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're telling me that Thanksgiving is in like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, oh no, what did I do? And then, so.
You were doing this.
Yeah. But I'm really looking forward to doing all this because I know on the backside of this, I've got 6 weeks of nothing, like literally nothing.
Excellent.
So it's just like, yes, I get to take a break. I don't have to worry about anything. I can put my phone on silent and not worry about it. So I'm really excited.
Oh yeah.
But
those are good days for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So first off, I want to thank you once again for jumping on here. It's a sad reason why we're here in the loss of my mother, but we're going to take a negative experience and turn it as into a positive experience as we can and try and help change somebody's life by raising awareness. Maybe somebody's out there listening and isn't even thinking they might have pancreatic cancer, but they have this back pain, they go get it checked out, or, just something that isn't feeling right, which has kind of been the main message because there's a lot of cancers out there that you could easily ignore the signs. And by the time you go get it checked out, it's too late. So
for sure. And I think it's great that you're taking this experience and turning it into something that can help other people. That's really great.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll jump a little bit more into that here in a minute. But How's things on your ends? How's the music career? I know you've gone through some changes with the music and been doing some different things and whatnot, but how's the music been?
It's been good, you know. I basically took some time this year and built a tiny little vocal recording booth, which is actually right next to me. So if I turn my camera, I've got this, which is moving blankets, and I basically put some grommets in some moving blankets and hung it off some PVC structure.
Nice.
And so it's a vocal recording booth, but I think of it as my socially acceptable screaming room.
Yeah. Nice. I love it. And you're still in Canada, right?
At the moment, yeah. I'm in downtown Toronto, and yeah, things are interesting music-wise. Like, I mean, there are definitely shows beginning to happen again, and I'm definitely taking some time to get more into production and making my work easier to do. So at the moment, what I'm in the middle of doing is making my own pedal board out of a shelf.
Nice. I did you post something on Instagram about that not too long ago?
Yeah. I've been kind of getting more into the kind of the construction of music, I guess. Just because, like, a lot of the time I find that the biggest barriers to what I need to do are having the equipment I need, right? Mm-hmm. And with COVID, it's not like I could go to recording studios, and so I just decided to build my own.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how far into the construction of your pedal board are you?
Well, the pedals are on top of the shelf right now, so that's about where I'm at. So it's going well. What I was going to just do is, to be super quick, I was just going to hammer some little tacks in around the pedals, and then if I get more pedals, I can just pull them out and redo them. So it's modular. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. And the fact that you're taking the time to think about it, not just now, but like as you grow as a musician and you kind of start experimenting more with your music, and if you want to bring in more pedals, whatever, you're kind of thinking in that direction as well. So
yeah, I'm really thinking in terms of minimalism, because I find that when you're working in music, as you know, like the temptation to get every piece of gear, right? And and just trying to work out what the core aspects of what I do are, and just get really good at those.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to slap myself on the hand every once in a while. Like, no, you don't need that. Nope. What are you doing? Stop.
Yeah, it's just that moment where it's like, oh, I have to check in with myself, don't I? But like, for example, during the pandemic, one of the things I did was I really wanted to learn how to make rice properly. Uh-huh. So I went and became like as specific as possible about it, just for that one thing. But that's kind of been what I've been doing through this pandemic. It's like, because there's so many things that you don't know if you can do, you just focus on getting one thing right.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're kind of taking more focused on the actual production of music, right? Am I wording that correctly? I think so. 5 hours.
Yeah. Breed to Swiss cheese, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. But so where are you kind of at writing wise? Do you still actively write, or is that kind of just taking a backseat to everything?
I'm writing a lot at the moment. So essentially, I've taken a new approach to how I build a collection or a piece. So last year, I released this music soundtrack called Penrose, and essentially, I made it so that it had some interesting internal structures. So there was a lot based around the number 19, because that's actually related to the game. And I realized that if I just decide on certain things, like, okay, so it's going to move in this progression, then I can create these arcs and this architecture inside the work. So at the moment, I'm kind of like designing it to actually have a cohesive flow, rather than my original plan, which was just like, oh, I've made these songs and they're fine, and I'm just going to put them together and hope it works.
I mean,
which can work for people. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I have this idea that it could be something more cohesive for myself. Mm-hmm. So, gotcha. Yeah.
And so as you've kind of been experimenting with how you're doing things, what's been the biggest challenge for you through the last year? We'll just say the last year and a half or so.
Self-judgment.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is just having patience for yourself when you're learning something new, and also just adjusting to all of the changes that the last year and a half has really brought for everyone. I think it's really easy to beat yourself up for not managing everything perfectly. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to forget, like 2 years ago, if you had described the situation to someone, they would ask you, what's this based on? What movie is this?
Yeah. And, that's very true. Like everybody's perspective has changed in the last 2 years, just in general. So it's interesting. And self judgment is something that I think even if musicians don't, or just people in general don't want to admit to it, we all have self judgment, and just kind of, learning to deal with it. And some people just don't. So it's always interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's because it's really scary to admit a vulnerability, because then it feels like that is a vulnerability potentially forever, but it doesn't have to be. So,
It definitely doesn't have to be. You can, I don't want to say learn to live with it, because that's not the right way to deal with yourself. But, you can start gaining confidence by taking small, like people tend to look over like the small victories. And it's like, oh, well, I just had 2 people listening to this podcast, but that's 2 people. Like that's a victory.
Great.
People are listening. And so then you move on to the next one, get a third person, and just kind of keep taking small victories. And people, and not to get on a soapbox, but I'm going to have to do it. But, in this world of social media, and we're all a victim of it, everybody brags about, everybody needs to be the best PR, or not best PR version of themselves, but they need to brag about what they're doing. And if it's not like this big, or what seems to, prospectively speaking, a big accomplishment, then it's kind of like, oh, it's not a win at all. Is that, you know what I'm saying?
I do, yeah. And I've been thinking about that in social media a lot myself, because like over the past year, it's like, I realize that I don't want to constantly feel like I have to promote myself, because I'm not interested in, like, I'm more interested in making connections with people, like putting my work in a place that will resonate with them, rather than like, thinking about the hashtags that will bring the most people to what I'm doing. Because like, I've been thinking as well a lot about certain like social media platforms, which we all use, but it's beginning to almost feel like posting on that is beginning to feel like a statement in and of itself, if that makes sense. Because it's like, I'm on a platform that actively has some very concerning patterns, and, maybe by me being part of it, am I being part of this, problem? And I think a lot of artists are beginning to move to Patreon and put a lot of the content that they used to put on Instagram and Facebook and so on there, just because like no one really wants to build a career on a platform that they don't control.
Oh, and it's that, and then like these social media platforms have kind of built their name, or they have name recognition, and so people just automatically assume, oh, you have 1 million followers on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, and it means something, which 5 years ago it didn't mean anything, because it's like, oh, you're a social media kid, cool. And now that the times have changed, the tides have changed. It's almost like we're in that same predicament where it's like the reason that social media became cool, because there wasn't any gatekeepers, whereas on traditional media, like as a musician, like radio, TV, just like all the traditional medias, there were gatekeepers. And now we're shifting over into social media, and it got started because there's no it got popular because there's no gatekeepers. Whoever is willing to put in the effort will get there. But now you're starting to see that shift where it's like, oh, there's gatekeepers here too. Like
they're algorithms.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was talking to somebody from Colorado a few hours ago on here, and I just straight up asked him, I was like, hey, you brought up that, because a lot of his posts go through Facebook. I was like, have you noticed that your natural fan engagement has dropped over the last month? He's like, oh yeah, it's dropped considerably. I was like, okay, cool. It's not just me, and so it's interesting.
It is. It definitely is. Like, I think that for for me at least, it's not necessarily like a concern to my livelihood or anything, because I wasn't using that as, primary business model. And some people are, and they work and they hustle, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
Where I see it as dangerous and problematic is where someone might be trying to raise awareness about a particular cause. Like, for example, the Wet'suwet'en protest at the moment. And a lot of them are now putting polls at the end of it to say, like, did you see this post? Because there's so little engagement compared to what they had. So and I think that that's very concerning, and it's a very uncertain place to try and put your work out there, really.
Yeah, and with the phrase social media, how social is it right now? Like, if you really think about it, like, it just even trying to promote this in and of itself, like promote this. Like, I literally had to message 10 to 12 people at a time. Wait, what? No. That's not even that. Or like just message people, be like, hey, this is a thing that's happening.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate it if you could join us or watch or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was the only way I was getting people to see it. And that, like, even that wasn't all that effective. Like, it was more effective on Instagram, but not to turn this into a bash social media. But
I think it's a valid thing to be aware that. I think the main thing is right now, because everyone is so more isolated than they used to be, like, it's important for people to be aware, like, it might not just be you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I mean, that's part of the reason I just decided to pull back and focus on the actual, tangible stuff that I can control. And then come back out when I have something that I can, like, have a campaign around, like, actually just spend. So rather than just trying to exist in people's attention span, because, like, for what?
That's kind of what I'm looking forward to over the next 6 weeks after this, is I can just disappear and see who's waiting for me on the other side.
Yep, absolutely.
And then those are the people that I'm going to, in moving forward, those are the people I'm going to invest more time in, because they're actually paying attention and waiting and all that stuff. They're not,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
Yep. I mean, it's kind of like a social molting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not to be weird about it, but, like, but it's cool. I mean, I think it's opening up a lot of possibilities for people to, really think about what they're trying to do as musicians. Like, what are they trying to get across to people, rather than just, like, getting caught up in that, like, hustle. Like, I just have to play all these shows. I have to be at this place and this place and this place, and, like, be seen.
Yeah.
And, just kind of maybe being more intentional about that. Like, I think seeing people like Simone Biles this year and stuff, just, like, actually taking an act of radical self-care when I don't know if I would have had the courage to do something like that when I was, under that much pressure. But, like, I think that's hopefully going to make waves.
The fact that she did it in the middle of that big of a stage, like, had she done it 2 months prior to the Olympics, there would have been news about it, but it wouldn't have had the impact that it had. Like, the fact that she was in the middle of the Olympics and was just like, I'm going to take it. I think it had a lot more impact.
Yeah, I imagine that was probably terrifying. Like, but I think it was really important to do, and I think it's hopefully going to make some changes, because I think, I mean, for me at least, I've seen a lot of artists and producers and content creators and so on, just, they reach points of burnout, and I don't think that should be a cost of doing the work that we do. Gotcha. So, I mean, not to be a downer about it, but I think there's potential to allow artists to work without having to feel like they must suffer in order to do what they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So to kind of shift gears a little bit about what the reason why we're here, which is to raise funds and awareness for pancreatic cancer.
Yes.
Have you lost anybody or had any close family experiences with pancreatic cancer, or just cancer in general? Because cancer is inherently just a bad thing.
Yeah, I did. I lost my grandmother to breast cancer. So yeah, not pancreatic, but it's it was rough. It was rough for my mother. because I was 4 when she passed away. So, didn't really quite grasp what was happening then. But yeah, I'm really glad that research is expanding in this. And yeah, I was really sad to hear about your mom.
Yeah, right. Thank you. And, just knowing all the musicians, like even when I just put it out there, because I knew I was once it got to a point where she was like in hospice, and it was like, okay, it's only a matter of days. I canceled everything that I had on my plate, and like the day after she passed, I was like, all right, well, here's why everything's canceled. Because I originally didn't want to make a big deal about it, but there were so many people that just kind of knew what was going on, like just through either casual conversation, or they were friends with a friend of mine, just like whatever it was. And just like the outpouring of support, it was like, all right, there's more people that care about this than I thought. So I need to do something. I need to make a post or a statement or whatever. And so just like the outpouring of support was like, wow, okay. So
I think it's great that you put the call out as well.
Yeah. And this was something that I had been wanting to do even before she passed. Like when she first got sick, it was like, originally I didn't know what my parents' financial situation was, because that's none of my business. So it was like, okay, well, maybe we need to do something to help pay for chemo or whatever it is, because chemo can get expensive and all that stuff. Yep. And then my dad was like, no, we'll be fine. Don't stress about that. And then I was like, okay, well, I transitioned to this idea just to help other people kind of, hopefully if they battle or are in a battle with pancreatic cancer, maybe they'll have a higher likelihood of surviving. So.
Yeah, and I really hope for that. And at the very least, knowing that there are other people who are, fighting for a cause that they're dealing with at the time, and knowing that there are other people out there who are a potential network to reach out to as well. I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, but this is our shorter interviews because of everything we got going on.
Of course.
But I want to first off thank you so much for jumping on and just being a part of this for the short time that you have been. And I look forward to having you on the podcast again once you're ready to start promoting something. You're always welcome. You know that.
Thank you so much.
So before I let you go, though, every person that has been a guest and will be a guest gets one question from our random question generator.
Okay.
I have an app. Ask random questions. I just swiped it. So
All right.
Are you ready for your question?
I'm very ready.
What is a movie many people like, but you hate?
Oh, goodness. Oh, shoot. I feel like there's one here that I really, okay. I think Interstellar was one that people loved, but I found really just, the soundtrack was just really overwhelming to me, so I just felt really difficult watching it. I'm struggling to think of one that people love that I hate. I can think of artists that I don't appreciate that people love, but I'll probably go with that one.
Okay. It was a pretty big hit here in the States, so I can only imagine it was samely received elsewhere.
Yeah, like amazing movie objectively, but I was like, no.
It wasn't executed right.
It was more just like, the physics was good. It was more just that like sort of just like sitting in the movie theater just being like, do you know how emotional Matthew McConaughey is feeling right now? Because you need to know how many emotions he's feeling right now. And I'm just kind of like, okay,
stop. I'm good.
Yeah. I get it. Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, I don't want to keep you. I think you probably need to take a very well-earned break. I just want to say thank you so much for having me as a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I mentioned, you're welcome back anytime. If people want to check out any upcoming potential shows, any new releases, any of your music that's out there, where's the best place for them to do that?
I'm going to say Bandcamp, so vancorvid.bandcamp.com. So van as in a van you drive in, corvid as in the genus of birds that includes crows and ravens and so on. I have a video game soundtrack there. I've got a live EP from a show where I was being tied to a steel pentacle throughout my performance. So if you're curious about what that might sound like, you should definitely give it a shot.
I will have to check it out after this weekend because I definitely did not see that one. So
yeah, it was just before the pandemic hit, so it really felt a bit inappropriate to promote it when there was so much going on in the world. Yeah. So kind of fell through the cracks.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
awesome. I can't wait to check it out. Once again, thank you so much for jumping on here. I absolutely appreciate it. I'm going to go eat something because I've literally had a pack of peanut butter crackers.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yes, please go eat. Thank you for having me.
But once again, thank you so much for jumping on. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll be back in about 30 minutes. If you're just kind of hanging out, make sure you're checking out the comment thread. The donation portal is below, or if you're hanging out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, there's a few other places that you can donate as well. And if you're just kind of curious where to donate, feel free to reach out. We'll get you taken care of. Awesome. All right. Well, Vancorvid, thank you so much for jumping on, and we will talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. All righty, y'all. Well, once again, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to go take a little bit of a break. I need to go eat something terribly bad, and we'll be back here shortly.